Today you're going to build formatting on save, you're going to build code actions with Telescope, you're going to build a loader that shows when the language server is loaded, you're going to have diagnostics across the whole workspace, and we're going to set up auto tagging so when you open a tag it'll automatically close it, and if you rename a tag it will automatically change it. Okay, so first things first, we're going to be installing conform. Now this is what we're going to be using to format our files. And the default config looks something like this. Now if we just delete the languages we don't care about for now, so if we just get rid of Rust and everything, we'll keep Lua and JavaScript for now. And then if you add an option, format on save, timeout 500 milliseconds, and LSP format fallback, and if we write and quit off here, we jump back in, we jump back to our formatting file, and if we write now, just like that, everything formats. So if we go back through all our files now, we should be able to make them all look pretty by just simply saving, just like that. Now I'm just going to add some more options. So JavaScript, React, TypeScript, React, JSON, and GraphQL. And now if we just jump back to our example project before, a React project, if we, for example, are missing our semicolons, we just write and boom, it fixes all them little errors for us. Now, while we're in this React project, let's set up something called ts-autotag. So that means that when you open a tag, it'll close the tag responding to how you change it. Similarly, if you change a div to a span, it'll rename the closing div as well. Let me show you. So I'm going to add it to my formatting as well. If we add that in there, simply just add the plugin and set it up. And if I jump back over to the React project, it's going to install it. And if we go to one of these files, let's say if we make a div now, div, boom, it's closed the div. And now if we change the div to a span, it changes the closing one to a span also. So now that we got formatting and save all set up, let's set up something else important. That's seeing all the errors across our project. So we're going to be using Trouble for this. And if we just copy the default config, it comes with some great key maps. Just like that. Now if we write and quit off here, we jump back in. Trouble should now be installed. And all you need to do is just open a file, for example, and if you lead it XX, it will then show you the diagnostics. Now in this project, I don't have anything wrong with it, so it's not going to show me any diagnostics. But if we open this project, we delete this use state, we can do lead it XX, and it will tell us all the errors in this file that we can look at. Now that's great, but what if we want to look at files across our whole working directory to see the errors? For example, if we make a change in this file that affects another file, we want to see that it's errored in another file, for example. That can be achieved through another plugin. Okay, so to set up diagnostics across files, we're going to need another plugin for that. This is called workspace-diagnostics. Now the way this works is when you load into a buffer, so on attach, it's going to populate the diagnostics from that current buffer across all the buffers that could possibly be open for that workspace. So this will only run once, so it won't like recursively keep running over your files, so you don't have to worry about performance. But basically what you want to do is in our LSP file, to the TypeScript language server, you want to add an on attach, and then you want to add populate workspace. Additionally, we're going to need to revert to the old way of doing the LSP config because currently this plugin doesn't support the native LSP. So what you're going to have to do is comment out this and add the old way of doing it, which is just LSP config server and then .setup. I'm sure that by the time you come to this, or in a couple of months' time, you'll just be able to just do just that and it'll work. But for this to work, we're going to have to revert back to the old way of doing it, which is fine. Anyway, let's jump into this plugin. So I've got a little demo component set up here that requires props, such as title and description. And then I'm using it right here, title and description. Now I'm going to delete description from it now. And I'm going to quit out of here. Now I'm going to open a buffer. I'm going to open my main.tsx. Now this is the only file open. So if I looked for diagnostics, it should only show this file. However, because we've got this new plugin, if I do lead XX, it's going to show us the errors in the app TSX, even though we wasn't even in it. And look, it's asking for the description. So we just delete the description now, and everything's okay. Perfect. So diagnostics are great when you're working across a large code base because you might make a change in one file that will affect another, and it's just much better knowing that without having to go and check all the references yourself manually. You can just do a lead XX, pull up all the changes, and see if anything is broken. Now, since we're in our React project, we're going to go through another plugin now, which is telescope-ui-select. Now, this just means that when we do lead a CA, for example, for code actions, it's going to pull up a nice menu rather than using a terminal prompt. So currently, if I just show you the way we have it, so if I just remove the reference to the demo component and I do lead a CA, it's going to say code actions in the bottom left there. And if I say I want to add the import, I'll just type number 1 and then boom, it's done it. There's nothing wrong with that, but this is a prettier way to do it. So in our telescope file, we're just going to add the UI-select plugin, and then we're going to need a config function now, basically where we can just require it and load the extension. And now if we open back to our project, quit out of that, and now if we go back to our file and we delete the reference to it, we can do leader CA. Now hold on, it's still showing the old menu. Why is that? Now that's because we have telescope lazy loaded to only do in our keys thing. So if I do leader SF, it's going to open the search files. And now if I do leader CA, it's going to do it the telescope way. Now if we don't want that to happen, we need to make sure that lazy is false. So if we add lazy false, that means that telescope will never be lazy loaded. And now if we go back to our file and we right quit and we jump back in, delete the demo component reference again, leader CA, and boom, straight away, code actions. Now this is great because if you want to move to a new file, you can either just say the number 4 or you can just type it. So if there's a scenario where you need loads of different code actions, you can search for them fuzzily, which is great. Okay, all this is great, but how do we know that our language server is even ready? Well, that's why I add something like Fidget, just a little icon in the bottom right that shows you if your language server is basically initialized. So if we copy the installation here, and I usually just add a miscellaneous file for like random plugins that I don't really know where to put. So if we just put the default config in here, we right and quit out of here. Now if I just open the project here and I go to the app TSX, I can see in the bottom right it's loading ESLint and TSLS. Now this is great because in a large project, sometimes your ESLint might take, I don't know, 20 seconds to load or 10 seconds to load or something like that. And you won't be able to do any code actions in that scenario because, your language server isn't ready for you. So it's good to have a little fidget to know when you can actively make the changes. Okay, we're nearly done, but there's one more little detail I would like to add, and that's lualine. Now, lualine is great because it shows loads of information. You can customize it to look however you want, and also we can use it to show workspace diagnostics. Just like that, and if we right and quit out here now, you're going to notice that when we load in, there's going to be a nice pretty line at the bottom, just like that. Now, this is already useful, so if we jump into our project over here, and if we open the app.tsx, for example, let's make an error in here. As you can see in the bottom left there, it shows a 1 error with an X. Now this is great, but if we open the main TSX, there's no error now. But ideally, we want to be able to see a number of the errors across the whole project so that we don't have to keep going lead XX to keep checking on our errors. We can just know that there's errors by looking at the bottom of our screen. Now configuring lualine is really easy. You basically do it in sections with A, B, C, etc. like that. So if we just do this one, for example, this is like a more minimal version. We jump back to our plugin, and as you can see, our lualine is much more minimal. So now I'm going to change this Y one to include workspace diagnostics. So if we just do it like that, a diagnostic with source as nvim workspace diagnostic. Perfect. So now if I open this project and we go to our main.tsx, for example, there's no errors in this file, but in the bottom right, you can see there's a 1 error in somewhere else. So if we do lead xx, we can see that, oh, that's in the app.tsx kind of find demo component. So if we go into the demo component now, and we rename it, let's say we made a spelling mistake, you can now see there's 2 errors in the bottom right there, but in the bottom left, you can see that there's only 1 error in this file. So now we can see errors in files and errors in the workspace, and then we can do obviously lead xx to view these more in depth.